God, we have the next session which has caught my eye, and I'm sure you all are also waiting for this session, or at least are looking forward to know what's coming up in this session because the topic is such. Don't invest in women. No, no, no. Don't invest in women because you don't need those $3 trillion opportunity. Well, discussing this topic on the panel is Jessica Cook, Jessie Draper. She is the founding partner of Halogen Ventures, as well as the creator and host of Emmy nominated television series, The Valley Girl Show. Draper is the fourth generation venture capitalist who focuses on early stage investing in consumer technology companies led by females and co ed teams. Joining Jessica on the panel is the co panelist who is another woman of power, Ritu Maria. She is the editor in chief at Entrepreneur Asia Pacific and India. So, Ritu and Jessie, we are looking forward for this amazing session. And I don't think anybody wants to miss this opportunity.
Thanks a lot, Akriti. I'm very excited to be here and having this talk here with Jessie Draper. And, I think the very fact that today women are trying to help women entrepreneurs, that's one of the biggest things that can happen to the women in business community. Because that would make a lot of difference to essentially women who are looking to sort of make or so to say break a leg in the field of business. So I think what Jessie Draper today is doing is something extremely fantastic because she's created a vehicle through which she is trying to help women founders in some of the most important aspects of their lives, which is really to build a business, find scale in their business, and also be able to, in some levels, balance their family life as well as their career. So she supports them with funds, resources, tools, skills, and gives them essentially the right foundation which will help them to prosper and succeed. So Jessie, it's wonderful to have you, to be talking to you over here at Thai Global Summit. And, as a starting point, I would love if you can tell us a little more about Halogen Ventures and how are you empowering female founders by investing early stage capital in their startup organizations. And especially, what is it? Because obviously you've sort of put 50% of the human race outside of your investment criteria. So what is it that you look for in a women founder when you go out and make an investment in a startup which is essentially run by women or at least partially has women founders in its ecosystem?
So, first of all, I'm so excited to be here. I am so grateful to have been involved in Thai for many, many years. And I just like to say, the very first speaking engagement I ever had was probably in 2007 or 2008. And it was to a women's group, the first, I think, women's group in Silicon Valley of Thai. And I interviewed Lata Krishnan, who I met through Thai, who is now one of my investors in my fund. And I love Thai. I'm so grateful to Thai. My entire family is grateful to Thai, and my grandfather, my father, and I all have been very involved with Thai for many years. And so just a huge fan and honored to be here today. So I run Halogen Ventures. We invest in early stage female founded consumer technologies. So there has to be a woman in the founding team of 5. We have about 62 businesses right now. And I like to say we have 3 male CEOs with a female co-founder, we like men. We just want to make sure there's women. It's funny when you run a fund focused on investing in women, you get a lot of very silly questions like, well, what if a man works there? And I say, well, we're building billion-dollar businesses. So I hope that eventually a lot of men work there. I just want to make sure that there are women in the founding team. And, Ritu, you kindly alluded to the fact that, yes, this is a big opportunity. We're giving these companies the resources they need, but also women are they're underrepresented in terms of investment, in terms of investors, holding investor seats. There's not enough women investors out there. So any women investors, just get out there, go do it, raise a fund. We need more of you. And it's a $3 trillion opportunity. It's more than that. Women also in the United States, I know, and I'm sure the statistics are very similar in India. women make 80% of purchasing decisions in households. So why aren't we as involved in the building of these businesses, since we're making most of the purchasing decisions? So yeah, we invest. Some of the things I look for, and I'm a former entrepreneur. I was a media entrepreneur, ran a tech news blogs that I started in 2008, the heart being this show called the Valley Girl Show. We were kind of like in those early days of distribution, acquired a few other tech blogs, and now I'm on the investor side and running this tech news blog site and the Valley Girl Show. I did 5 seasons of the show, and I quickly learned that after 2 seasons, I had only interviewed incredible men in technology.
Mm-hmm.
And that was a problem because I'm a 4th generation venture capitalist and the first female in line. I grew up in Silicon Valley. All I know is startups and technology, but I didn't think I could go into that because I was female and I didn't see any women around me. And so I went into entertainment and kind of combined this like technology entertainment background. And after 2 seasons of interviewing incredible men who I respect so much, I just realized that I needed to change something. And I was facilitating the problem I had seen as a young girl. And so I made an initiative to interview 50% women in technology on the show, and they came. I call it like the Batwoman Signal because I started just getting pitched all of these deals run by women. There is no lack of women starting companies. We saw nearly 5,000 deals last year, and I think it's because it's just like a magnet. It's really incredible to see how many women are starting these billion-dollar businesses. And so I started saying, sometimes you're a little too early for the show. I love what you're doing. I'd have a lot of them on. I'm forever grateful to the women of fashion tech back then, because it was like Jen Hyman from Rent the Runway and the Gilt Group Girls and Rebecca Minkoff. And I don't know if you are all as familiar with them, but they were early stage entrepreneurs in about 2010. And now they're running these enormous businesses. And they made it okay then for Sheryl Sandberg to come on the show and numerous others, Lata Krishnan, et cetera. And I started seeing these early stage deals saying, I don't have a lot of money, but I can maybe be a strategic advisor and get you media exposure. Or as I started making a little bit of money, I was in my 20s and I was just emptying my bank accounts into these companies. I was like, $1,000, $5,000, will you take it? And some of those deals ended up doing really well for me. One I sold for a 25x return on the secondary market in less than 18 months. And then I came to a point with the show and the tech blog that I had to kind of make a decision because the investments were going so well. And I thought, let's see if I could raise a fund. So I went out and I pitched, 500 potential investors, as one does, closed maybe 50 of them and raised my first fund. We're now on the second fund, and our companies are doing incredibly well. We sold one last year to P&G, one to Walmart. We're selling one right now. We've had about 7 exits and returns, and we're just getting going. And I'm just telling you, investing in women de-risks the opportunity because there's so much data around this, but we're much more risk averse, which I don't think we should look at as a bad thing. It just means we take much more calculated risk. So we're taking in many more data points than men are. But what we can take from men and learn from men is like, go with your gut sometimes. At the end of the day, I go through my 100-item diligence checklist in terms of, you were asking what I look for. And I'll go through my checklist. But at the end of the day, I look at my team and I say, but do we feel good about this? Do we feel good about this deal? Because, you're about to go through a 10-year journey with this person. And so I think, you can take only so much into account. And when you're investing, you do need men and you need women. You need to de-risk, and then you need the gut check and the go for it as well. And so in terms of what we look for, we look for a very, like any entrepreneur, any great entrepreneur, we're looking for a fantastic entrepreneur, someone who can walk through walls, breathe fire, and,
superhero.
we're looking for a first the product. Is it unique? Is it defensible? Is it, and then we look for, product first, like, is this something that in 10 years will be $1 billion business? Does it have some sort of traction? Is that $1 million in revenue? Is that 100,000 users? Mm-hmm. And, if you're an early stage entrepreneur out there, don't stress about those numbers. We also invest pre-product, but what I want to see is some data around, why do people need this product? And then the third thing, which I should have put first, is obviously the founder. The founder is the most important thing. We love co-founders. We love complementary skill sets. We love it when what your strengths and your weaknesses are, and that you've figured out how to deal with your weaknesses. And we look for people who we can partner with for a long time.
So, you're sitting in Silicon Valley and, you're a fourth generation venture capitalist. So, one of the points I would love to know more about is, why did you pick up consumer tech as a category for investments? I mean, you probably, I'm sure it's much bigger than just consumer tech, but, it says that Halogen Ventures focus on women founders who are particularly in women tech, consumer tech. So, why consumer tech? What is the big opportunity for consumer tech, particularly within Silicon Valley, that you see it as a great chip to make an investment in?
So while I grew up in Silicon Valley, we're actually based in Los Angeles. And we, in terms of consumer technology, we do about 25% CPG physical products that are, typically e-commerce or marketplaces that ship physical products with some sort of like defensible opportunity. So we have a company called Flex, which is a menstrual disc that's an alternate tampon device. Tampons, multi-billion-dollar industry. And this is another option within that category that's doing incredibly well. And then we do 75% pure tech plays. And so, we have a company called the Squad app, which is like a Zoom type service for teenagers. They just partnered with Snapchat. You can screen share, watch movies with your friends. People are obsessed with it. It's been very fun. And then, in terms of consumer technology, I think it's very, very vast. But because, one, I came from media and I knew the opportunity of, like, media I look at as simply a vessel for which to sell things through. So as a fund, I knew that what we could do for our founders is add media exposure. We do influencer strategies with all of these celebrity influencers and micro influencers, all the way to, full press strategy, all the way to go-to-market strategy. And so marketing is kind of our expertise. So when it comes to consumer, that is a real secret sauce, I think, that we have specifically as a fund. And being based in LA, that's very, very helpful. And then also, in terms of women, women are starting consumer businesses left and right. I think what I've realized is they're starting businesses in every single category. They're starting so many businesses that I actually had to really, really focus. And so we, right now, we're very focused on beauty technology. We're invested in a great company called Prima Donna that is the inventor of the first nail bot, where I can take a picture of all of you with my smartphone and print it on my nail from their printer in under 2 seconds. And then we're very focused on work from home, future of work technology. And that was even before COVID. So that's been going pretty well for us. And then, I'm sure you can attest that the United States government is incredibly inefficient. And so we are focused on companies that are consumer focused, but also have a government, can work with the government. We're really focused on childcare as a category, foster care oriented technologies, and trying to actually solve some problems within the government. Mm-hmm. The government is a multi-billion-dollar business. It's bigger than the Fortune 500 companies combined, and they have the technology exists to solve these problems. We just need to plug it in. So those are 3 of the verticals we're excited about within consumer. And then looking at sustainability and anything in femtech. I love that space just in general. I think, you can go into consumer. There's so many different categories we really have had to focus.
But you feel that, the whole opportunity of building billion-dollar companies is as high in consumer tech as it is in deep tech, because, we've seen practically companies starting 3 years back and now they're almost like unicorns, and it's just like you feel that it's sort of hit that mark in no time at all. You feel the same opportunity lies in consumer tech too?
Oh, definitely. You look at Amazon, there's many, many opportunities. And now our whole behavior in consumer is changing. So we're seeing unique, even B2B opportunities that facilitate the consumer experience that we're seeing as multi-billion-dollar opportunities. But yes, we only go into billion-dollar markets.
Sure, absolutely. That's so. Tell me that the pandemic has sort of changed the way we've been approaching our businesses. So particularly being now in the investor as an investor, how difficult has this period been for you? To raise your fund, to get exits, to sort of be able to balance your portfolio companies, keep them, above the water so that they don't sink. So, what all, particularly your lenses as a investor, how, as a woman entrepreneur, how tricky has this period been for you? And secondly, how have you been helping other women entrepreneurs in your portfolio to stay afloat?
Yeah, such a good question. And first of all, I know it hasn't been easy for everybody, so I hope everyone is doing okay and that they're healthy. It has not been easy, I think, for anyone. This is just a new way of living, at least over here. And I think everywhere is just weird. I've just convinced myself we're living in an alien world, and we're eventually we'll go back to planet Earth. But, it's been, in terms of being a fund manager, going into COVID week one, because we're in early stage, we were actually seeing our companies take little hits to revenue much earlier than, you look at the public companies, they hadn't even caught up. And so when we were starting to hear 60% hit to revenue, 90% hit to revenue, I got all of my companies on a Zoom call. It might not have been all of them. It was about 50 of them, because I think I only had the 50 Zoom thing. And I just said, here's what we recommend. Figure out how to make sure that you have 12 to 24 months of runway. Become a marketing machine. If you can't sell, you might as well build your brand. Apply for the PPP loan, which was the loan that the United States government was giving out. And we just made all these recommendations right away. We also offered a lot of business service provider hours and just helped as much as we could. We usually are the 24-hour hotline. I was a few minutes late getting on our sort of pre-call because I was, I'm closing a deal right now. I'm usually the 24-hour hotline. But during COVID, it's the, 28-hour hotline or something. And we just tried to be available to our founders. We also helped them raise. A lot of them said, wait, I don't have, 24 months of runway. I need to just raise a quick bridge round. So we participated. We raised SPVs with our investors as well. They like to have direct investment access. And so I felt like we paused everything we were doing as a fund, re-strategized, tried to support our companies, tried to see who was, taking a hit. Luckily, we only have about 2% travel and events oriented companies. And so we were doing okay. Some strange ones were taking off, the Squad app going into COVID had over 1 million users. And because they're this Zoom type service for teenagers, you can imagine the astronomical growth, where one of my team members had to help go operate over there for a minute till we could hire and place people. And then we have Trust and Will, which is an estate planning online service, and sold more wills in the last year than ever before, which is so sad, but good for business. And so it's been fascinating to see what has done well. And we just tried to support them however we possibly could. But we actually were in the middle of our fundraise. I can talk about this now because I couldn't talk about this before. But we were in the middle of our fundraising. We had to pause because we wanted to make sure our companies were okay. And so we ended up fundraising for our businesses a lot more than for ourselves.
Mm.
And then we just closed our fund on Monday, which if my PR person's listening, she's gonna be so mad that I just said that out loud. But we just closed our fund finally. And I want to share because it was the hardest thing I've ever done. We have 84 investors. We raised $21 million.
Wow.
So imagine how many people I spoke to. I mean, I probably spoke to 400 people in the last, and it took me almost 2 years because we paused going into COVID, took 6 months off, helped raise for our companies. And then, it's no easy task. And I like to say that especially for women and for men, often entrepreneurs come to me and they say, well, everyone said no. No one's investing in my company. And I'm like, well, who's everybody? Like, who's everyone? And they're like, oh, well, I talked to 8 investors. I'm like, so plan on talking to 100 because then something will happen. If 20 in a row say no, you might need to ask for some feedback and rejigger your deck a little bit and answer some questions that you weren't aware they were concerned about, and then go back out there. But if you plan on having 100 meetings, something should happen. And it's just, I think it's important to know, you can't give up. You have to keep going. And that was the hardest thing I've ever done. And I think for a moment, I was like, can I fundraise through Zoom? Is that possible? And then when I started, I realized, oh, wow, I can. And I think it's absolutely incredible. I mean, we're investing through Zoom. So, but I think it's incredible that I have 20 new investors that I've never met in person. I think that's just crazy to me, but that's how business is being done, and business needs to continue. And we need to continue to support these companies. These companies need to continue to grow and operate. Just before this, we were talking about the lockdown in Los Angeles and California. And I was just saying, I think sometimes the government doesn't realize we need to operate. We need to continue outdoor restaurants and things just so people can continue to, work. And I think there's a disconnect sometimes between the government and then the financial implications. And yes, the science, I know this is a horrible disease. I wear a mask, I stay inside, I do what I can, but we still need people working. It's just because otherwise we're just driving ourselves into a much bigger recession now.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, that's true for pretty much every country around. So tell me, have you done some investments during new investments during the COVID time over Zoom calls with founders? And
yes.
So how do you think investments are going to change for a new normal post? Once we of course come back to the sort of at least a partially old normal world that we've been living in. So do you think that the necessity of flying down to meet the founder, trying to sort of experience, understand his teams and his workspace better, that might all change now? And as an investor, you're going to sort of look at or evaluate a startup much differently than you've done before?
Yeah, I think I would prefer to meet them in person. I think everyone would prefer to meet all of these people in person. I think it's changed my investment strategy in just a little bit, where we do a lot more diligence. We're calling a lot more references. We're really trying to get to know them in a different way and just check a lot more boxes than we were before in early stage investing. But yeah, we just invested in terms of change too, we stuck to our strategy because we don't touch a lot of retail. Our companies are doing pretty well. We stuck to our strategy. Some are taking a hit. I think that's just the reality right now. But we stuck to our strategy, and we did focus on, I was always focused on ed tech, but we looked a lot harder at ed tech. So we just did an ed tech deal. I've never met her in person. She's based in Florida. It's called Caribou. And It's great for you if you want to connect to your grandchildren via, you can play games with them through iPads or any kind of device, and lots of fun activities. And they're kind of like coming up with this idea of a virtual babysitter that like keeps your kid in the corner playing on this, interacting with someone while I sit here and I work. I have 2 little kids. And so I'm very excited about that. We're looking much more seriously at ed tech, and then childcare in general. I think there's a big opportunity and I thought that even before COVID, it was a broken system before. Now I cannot believe how broken it is. And I do want to say, while this is a tough time for everyone, all of you entrepreneurs, like, you're going to build this back up. So keep working. I am so excited for what's to come in the next 10 years. You look at the 2008 recession for us, and that was when all of the biggest technology companies that I know today came out of the 2008 recession. The Slacks, the Ubers, like all of these companies came out of the 2008 recession. So all of you entrepreneurs out there, start building your businesses or keep building your businesses, because now the world looks different and you're going to solve all of these problems. And then you're going to be the $1 billion business in 10 years. So let's look at it that way.
Yeah, I know. We're certainly headed for more interesting times. I think if we, if the pandemic sort of doesn't stop right here. So, I know we're almost at the end of our time, but we love to know a little more about you personally. What about you as an entrepreneur? You come from a family of VCs, and 3 generations it's already been for you. So was this being a VC, or trying to sort of look into promising startups, was something that I'm sure you've been raised up with it. It's been happening around you, and when you're in a family where this is like an ongoing conversation, you sort of internalize so much without realizing, and you realize you probably have a university degree just sitting at home and talking to your parents about it. So had you not been a VC, what would have been your alter career?
I think I was an entrepreneur. I think I was always an entrepreneur at heart. But I went into entertainment right after school, and I was an actress on a Nickelodeon show for a little while. Yeah. And then that's when I started this show and built the tech site. And in terms of my family, I'm so grateful for the education they've given me. I do believe, you have to work incredibly hard, and experience is so much more. Like, they can tell me everything, but until I experience it, it's a lot of conversations with my dad or grandfather being like, I told you that was going to happen. And I'm like, yeah, but now I know because it happened. So, and then our family is very, we all work very hard. I almost feel like sometimes it's, my mom calls it, like when we have dinners, my mom calls it the board of directors meetings, because currently, my dad runs a fund. My brother, Adam, runs a fund in VR and blockchain, and now they're doing ocean tech. He runs an accelerator called Boost. My brother, Billy, runs Path Ventures, which is a new CPG fund. And then I run a fund. So we all run funds. Sometimes we co-invest when it makes sense. And then my grandfather, is still sort of doing Draper Richards Kaplan, which is a social enterprise, or invest in social enterprises. And so I do feel like I learn a lot from them. It is a very unique family, and I'm very grateful to be around them. And I have great advisors I can call, and it'll be even my brothers, like when I call them and say, hey, what did you do about this SPV thing? Or what, have you set up your like investment advisory committee? Like, how'd you structure that? Just to be able to call people and ask those questions. And my dad and grandfather have just history of lessons. I'm very proud, actually. My grandfather was one of the first VCs in India, and he just brags about it all the time. He's so proud to have invested in so many companies there. And I hope that eventually we can launch a branch there. We're right now very domestically focused, but as we grow, I hope that we grow more international. So yeah, no, I feel like I learned lots of lessons. The one thing that I would say I take from my family and watching my dad build his business is he always said, think bigger. And he's like, you were asking about consumer businesses. And yes, like if it's a fashion line that only sells one thing, I'm probably not interested. I don't think that's $1 billion business. I want to know what the bigger business is there. Is it a marketplace? What else are you selling? Are you going to be a lifestyle company? Are you going to innovate on the consumer experience? Is this, what else is it? And so I think to just always be thinking bigger, I do feel like I have a lot of founders pitch and I'll say, okay, so you just told me what you're doing and it's actually only a $50 million market. So take that idea, go figure out what else you're going to do to make it bigger, multiply that by 10, multiply that by 100, and then come back to me with the market, I think that's the one lesson that just sticks with me. I'm constantly like, how will this grow? And if I can't grow the vision, because we invest in early stage, it's often mostly an idea. If I can't build a $1 billion vision, I usually don't invest I definitely don't invest because I don't know how we're going to get there and I need to be able to see it. So I'd say that's one of the lessons that I've learned from them.
Sure. And, had you not been a VC, what would you be doing currently?
I'm so happy doing what I'm doing. I don't know. I love fish. So I think that I would be like a marine biologist. Like I'm obsessed with sharks and I track them on my phone. There's like this search, you can track sharks around the world. And I do these open water swims where I swim and I always check for sharks before I go. and then I wear, my husband gave me these things called shark bands. I don't know if I would invest in this company necessarily, but it makes me feel better. And I guess when sharks go near a magnet, they get confused. And so they go a different direction. And so you can wear these big magnets on your wrists and your feet. And I wear them and they make me feel like I'm not going to be attacked by a shark. So I think I'd be a marine biologist.
Well, that would have actually been great. And I mean, what's stopping you now? You can always do it as and when you want.
I have so many companies to take care of and investors. I have to make all my investors lots of money. But yeah, no, I love marine biology. It's a fun hobby.
Yeah, for sure. So, let me end this by just asking you that in the startup, in the tech space, everybody has a mentor. Who is yours?
I have so many women who've been incredible to me and so many men too. I'd say Sonia Perkins, who was at Menlo Ventures for about 20 years and now runs Broadway Angels. She's always been just incredibly supportive of everything I've done. And I found this email from when I was like 22 and she was asking me to be a scout for Menlo Ventures. And I just realized she's just been someone I've called for years when I have questions. And she's a great advisor. And then Cindy Eckert, who created the first female Viagra and sold it to Valiant for $1 billion, is one of my investors. And I just admire her and she's brilliant. And she's investing all of that back into the female ecosystem as well. And then my dad has been an incredible mentor.
Sure. Well, thank you very much for talking to us, Jessie. It's been wonderful to know about your journey, and we wish you all the more big, successful ventures. And what you're doing for women community and women entrepreneurs, founders, is something that is so incredible, because I think it's only women who can go out and help women in a way which is unparalleled, because we understand each other so much better. And our work and our own cultures that we create around our work and our families. So thank you very much for talking to us today.
No,
any final words from your side?
Thank you. I'm so grateful to have been here.
Thank you very much. Over to you, Akriti.